Well, welcome back to Sports Betting Insight today. Teddy Covers, joined here by Marc Lawrence. And Marc, we're here at the IFBC conference in San Jose, Costa Rica. Usually see about once a year in Las Vegas at least. But this year, you're not coming to Vegas for the Westgate Super Contest weekend because, what is that? You got some kind of...
I got something going on that, maybe people think, what are you, crazy not to go to Vegas? But, it only happens once in your lifetime, and that's a 50th wedding anniversary. I've got it that weekend here. Me and my loved one, my wife Colleen, are going to celebrate our 50th. Over that weekend here, we'll make plans elsewhere.
Yeah, fair enough. But if you're not going to be in Vegas that weekend, you better give us some picks now. Let's talk 2017 NFL. I want a bet-on team right out of the gate. Who do you got for me?
Well, bet-on team out of the gate this year, I like the Carolina Panthers to come back this year. I talked about it at the conference here. I threw out a stat that was really a mind-blowing stat, if you will. Since the Super Bowl history, teams that loses a Super Bowl game, okay, and they fail to make the playoffs the next year, that's the Carolina Panthers. It's happened 14 times. All 14 times, those teams have made it back to the playoffs the following year.
That's a great stat.
That's a great stat, okay, in the Carolina Panthers. I love the fact that they're a mission team this year. Winning team 3 years in a row, suddenly a losing team. This is a hungry football team, and they're in a division I think that's winnable. I think this year you're going to find the Atlanta Falcons coming down, the Carolina Panthers going up.
And that division, certainly a division that has gotten a lot of attention. I like Tampa a little bit better than the market, and I certainly like New Orleans a little bit better than the market. So we're talking about a division that has a lot of bet-on potential.
A lot of upside teams, exactly.
In the NFC South. When we talk about a bet-against team for 2017 in the NFL, who stands out to you,
Well,
Marc?
who stood out to me, I'm saying stood in the past tense, but who still does, is the Miami Dolphins, okay? You and I talked about that at the conference here.
Sure, but
okay?
the Tannehill injury is a disaster.
It's a disaster for this team, and I was set to play against them. I played against them at 7.5 even. Now it's 7.5 and a lot of money because of the Tannehill thing. It's probably going to be 7 when they kick this thing off, when Jay Cutler signs to be their quarterback.
It'll go to 6 when Cutler signs.
Probably so.
But 7 and 6.5.
But what Miami did last year was so phony. You know that. I know that. They won 10 games. They got out-yarded 60 yards a game doing that, and they won football games, I think 8 of them by a touchdown or less. This has got all play against material for the Miami football team this year.
Sure, and Miami from a strength of schedule standpoint, last year, one of the easiest schedules in the NFL.
Exactly.
I believe they had 1 win all year against a team with a winning record.
Right.
This year, from a differential standpoint, the biggest differential from an easy schedule last year to a tough schedule this year. Their schedule, I believe, about 10 or 11% harder overall in the aggregate, which is very significant when it comes to looking at them in comparison to other teams' strength of schedule differential for 16 versus 17.
Yeah, they have to pay the piper this year with the schedule here. They were beneficiaries of it last year. Adam Gase's first year. A lot of the players like him as a head coach. They come and play hard for him. Great job getting the job done that way. But you and I are numbers guys. You look inside those numbers here. I like to use this phrase here. The NFL, to me, I can put tape over the names of every 32 teams here. On any given Sunday, we know what can happen, okay? But what matters is who's hitting on all cylinders and who's not. You put tape over the names of those teams here. This year, you're going to find, if I put tape over the Miami Dolphins last year, we would have sworn they lost 10 games and they didn't win 10 games, okay? So you end up, like we call it, regression to the mean. You're going to see the flip this year with the Miami Dolphins.
So let's talk week 1, because obviously we're here at the start of the preseason, and preseason, in my mind, is very, very, I mean, it's night and day. You know, there are no opinions in preseason. All your betting is information, and if you get good information, you're supposed to win in the month of August when you do your homework. But once it comes to week 1 of the NFL season, yeah, there's information involved, but boy, there's a lot of opinions, and especially about where the markets are going to move between now and then. So let's talk about a couple of week 1 games that stand out to Marc Lawrence.
Well, I have to see I have to weigh the preseason a little bit here. Not so much to gauge how good or bad they were in the preseason. I like to see how they come out of the preseason here. You got injury factors here, so I'm not going to really go out and step out and make any plays per se in week number 1. But you've got teams that I think are on my play-on list that I mentioned there about the Carolina Panthers. I like the Cincinnati Bengals. I like this football team this year. They had a losing team last year. I think what they've done in the offseason is really, really good. I'm going to keep a close eye on them opening week number 1.
Are you worried at all about the loss of the 2 starting linemen for the Bengals, because that's the one thing that stood out to me about Cincinnati that certainly everyone's talking about when it comes to the Bengals. Oh, but that offensive line. Oh, but that offensive line.
Yeah, they were beat up a little bit in free agency in those losses, and it's going to hurt them because it was a strength for that football team last year. But this is Marvin Lewis in a rare role. He's never had that losing season here. Andy Dalton, I talked about quarterbacks at the conference here and how surprisingly well Andy Dalton does to the spread, if you will. So long-range Cincinnati Bengals, opening week, I'll wait and see what happens out of the preseason.
Sure. Are there any week one angles that people should be familiar with? Anyone week one angles or trends that stand out to you as someone who's done an extraordinary amount of database research into league-wide trends and angles and that sort of thing?
Well, what I'll look to do, I mentioned the preseason. Out of the preseason here, I like to look at these teams that went winless 0-4 in the preseason here and let them puppy up in week number 1 against teams that were in playoffs teams last year. Sometimes you'll find these playoff teams playing immediately down to the level of opposition, especially if the opponent looks as if they're struggling right now. So it's a crack the whip kind of a situation here. So again, I like to gauge the preseason. We'll look and see who struggled a little bit in the preseason here, didn't win a football game, pair them up against a playoff team, and let them puppy up.
And that, of course, would be a team most likely to be catching points.
That's exact. Well, we wouldn't lay points for sure.
Do you lay points at all in the NFL? Or are you a guy that really pretty much only plays underdogs?
I play 90% underdogs, but I'll look to lay points if it's a value situation. If it's something that I feel like, hey, I'm getting some nice value here. We know we're going to win this football game. We're laying 2.5, 2 points. I'll do that, but I'm basically looking first for that live dog, the dog that I think can win this football game. And if he doesn't, my theory, Woody Hayes. Okay, 2 out of 3 things happen. The underdog, he can win the game, he can cover the spread, or he can lose the game. I'll take my chances with that dog 2 out of 3 times.
And I remember you talking probably I think the first time I ever heard you talk at a conference, not all that dissimilar from the one that we just attended here in San Jose, but you had that basic same message where, you know, there's advantages with your #1 priority is looking for underdogs that are live to win the game. If they're live to win the game, they can win, or they can lose and still cover. 2 ways, in theory, of winning.
Exactly that, and especially you can cement the play if they're a good defensive team, okay? Look for those good live defensive dogs. I'll look at the card each week, and I'll look for the top 4 underdogs that I think have the best defenses and are the live dogs that can win football games. That's immediately where my search begins. If there are no such plays like that in the card, we'll pare it down, but if there are, that's exactly what I want.
One last question from Marc Lawrence from playbook.com. And Mark, where do they find you on the internet? Where do they find you on Twitter?
Real easy on the online, it's playbook.com. Twitter, it's at Marc Lawrence with a C, at Marc Lawrence.
Mark, thank you so much for being here, taking the time to give our audience here on SportsBit a couple of tidbits from your many years of experience. Really appreciate it. Best of luck this football season. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be here on SportsBit, Ted. I look forward to working with you down the road, and thanks to the crew here at San Juan, or in Costa Rica, for this beautiful conference they put on the IFBC. I enjoyed being here.
Sure, San Jose, baby. We're in San Jose.
San Juan, San Jose.
Yeah, San Juan's not a bad place.
Yeah,
either.
I understand.
We'll be right back on SportsBit Betting Insight today.
Hey guys, for the full video, go to sbrpicks.com.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.